I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Only joking.
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Only joking.
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
Small off-duty Czechoslovakian traffic warden.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Only joking.
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
All right, dudes, it's time for another episode of It's Time to Rewind. I am known as Bubbawheat. Not the Bubbawheat, not first name Bubba, last name Wheat, just Bubbawheat. This season is Red Who, where I'm covering British sci-fi like Red Dwarf and Doctor Who. And joining me 3 million years in the future via the TARDIS is my guest, Luke, from Flicks and Chill. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thanks. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. I was on your show, and we had a very long conversation, and
Yes.
I at some point, whenever I was doing my plugs at the end, you mentioned that you were a fan of Red Dwarf, so I
Mm-hmm.
asked you on, and we are going to be talking about Skipper, which is the sixth and final episode from series 12 of Red Dwarf, originally aired November 16th, 2017. But before we jump into the episode, how did you get started with your Red Dwarf fandom?
So it was due to my mom. Um, Once upon a time, before we had internet, because I am not as old, but I am old enough not to grow up in the internet era. But I was one of the first ones to like adapt to the internet. We received a package from my mom's like friend with like a bunch of like CDs. Totally everything totally legit. Nothing illegal about it at all. And one of the quite a few of the CDs were Red Dwarf, and it was poor quality. Like imagine pixel on top of a pixel, where
So
the
like
audio
VCDs?
not even no, I don't even know VCDs. Like genuinely imagine like 240p or maybe 144p, right? But even the audio was just laggy, and but we didn't know, or at least at the time we didn't have internet and then didn't know any better. So that's all there was. But we all our family and fell in love with the Red Dwarf. And obviously, as we've grown, the internet came about, and my mom actually loves it so much she purchased legal DVDs, season 1 through 8. So it's my favorite TV show of all time because I have seen the first 8 seasons, each episode at least 10 times, and I'm not even joking. Like basically every once in a while when we didn't know in our household what to watch, oh yeah, let's just put on Red Dwarf. That's it.
So do you have a favorite season out of the eight, or are they all kind of equal to you?
I would say so the first 2 seasons before like the show have gotten like bigger and like you can see they have like a bigger budget and all that. I think second season is my favorite. We got the Crichton introduction. My favorite episode of all time to this day is Queek. So that's the fifth episode of second season where Holly has this opponent where it's actually like supercomputer as opposed to Holly who has an IQ of 6. And it's just so good and like kind of emotional at the end, and then they flip the table on you. It's so good. Yeah, but yeah, first two, like the rest of it I think is still great, like don't get me wrong. With the newer seasons, 9 to 12 and back to
Yeah,
Earth.
the Dave era is,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
kind of how it's referred to.
Yes, Dave era, yep. I've only seen all of them once, so I don't have as big of an attachment to those. So yeah, but the first 8 seasons, I could probably quote you most of the scenes, like, but in Czech, not in English, because like that's one of those shows that I grew up watching with the Czech dubbing, and I've already watched it, like the entire show with, like in original in English, all that, but most of the quotes still come to me in Czech language rather than in English.
So how, I guess
Hmm.
I know in a lot of other countries that dubbing is much more common than subtitles as terms
Hmm.
of like American and UK English productions, but like how how good a quality is kind of looking back on it, because I
Hmm.
know in general a lot of people, dubbing really has a wide quality range from really poor dubbing to really good dubbing.
Oh yes, there's leaps and bounds. So to answer this question a bit broadly, there's the two eras of Czech dubbing. Not only myself, but many people are referring to this. So there's like the 90s and mid 2000s where the dubbing was actually high quality. So like one actor would have one voice. So like, like Tom Hanks always sounds the same. Tom Cruise always sounds the same. Yeah. And so there's a consistency and there is actual seem to be skill involved. And where they try to like match the tone, match the tempo of the actor, all that. And then we enter the new era where like I've just seen, well, just a couple of years ago I went back home and watched A Few Good Men. And there was a dubbing of Tom Cruise. I'm like, who the ever loving F is this guy? What? That just sounded wrong. Like it was nope. But Red Dwarf, that's like peak of Czech dubbing. Like that and Simpsons are still like very strong like dubbings. Like where I would not blame anybody if they prefer like Czech dubbing over the original. Most of the time nowadays, I obviously just, English or Japanese, Korean, whatever. I prefer the original language, right?
Hmm.
But with a couple of shows, like, I wouldn't mind I could see myself even going back to Czech dubbing every once in a while.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
And then, you said that you've only seen, the majority of the Dave era once. Uh,
Yes.
but how, like, what's your thoughts on, the quality? Was it, are you down on it, or is it just one of those things where, you've seen it once and it was good, but you have to kind of give it time for it to become a classic?
I think so. Back to Earth, just those three. I kind of watched. I think I watched it maybe one more time after because I was like, I don't know if I like this, and it's like it's more melancholic. And then the seasons 9 through 12 are back to the like sitcom or Britcom roots,
Hmm.
where it's more like it feels more Red Dwarfy. And I remember thinking they were pretty good. Like it's just very strange to see them getting old. Like in the episode, like like obviously everybody ages, myself included. So I'm not gonna, I'm not giving them stuff for being old, of course not. But it is, it's one of those like, did we really need this? Like the episode we're about, the Skipper, I actually rewatched today, so obviously I need to, I had to refresh myself. And there is a scene, we're spoiling the entire episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a scene where Holly comes back, since season 8. And just to see him like so old, and I'm like, oh. Like I'm
Yeah.
still happy that he was there, and it was a great scene, and it was like a great callback to the first episode. And
Yeah.
nobody's dead, Dave.
Nobody's dead, Arnold.
Yeah, no, oh Dave, yeah, sorry, Arnold. Yeah, yeah, because original was everybody's dead, Dave. Now it was
Hmm.
nobody's dead. Correct, yes. And so there was a great callback, and but I'm like, it's weird to see them that old, and especially like somebody like Holly, and
Yeah.
now, and I thought this finale, not just those seasons, but the finale, because this is actual final episode,
Yeah, before the Promised Land, this was, I
and
think a
season
lot of
13.
the, yeah, I think a lot of the Dave era seasons, I feel like they kind of, treated the last episode of each season as potentially the final Red Dwarf.
Hmm.
And this one definitely feels like a capper to the show as a whole, and I think that works well. And I know whenever I watched this the Red Dwarf in the fall of 2023 was whenever I kind of did my all the way through watch, and that was my first experience with the Dave era shows. And
Hmm.
this
What did you
episode,
think?
I liked it. I thought that whenever I was watching that series, 8 was kind of like my least favorite,
Hmm.
and then I enjoyed Back to Earth, and then I thought that the Dave era regular episodes were all generally pretty good. They
Yeah,
had their hills and valleys like anything else, but I
yeah,
thought that it felt like classic Dwarf just with, older actors.
hmm yeah,
And Skipper, I think, was really my favorite, and it has kind of two of my all-time favorite moments, and one of them is the everybody's or nobody's dead Arnold.
yeah.
I just love that and love the return of Norman Lovett as Holly,
Oh yeah.
and I could tell, like I did read that the return of Captain Hollister was filmed beforehand, so it was shown to the live audience on a monitor. But the return of Norman Lovett was filmed live in front of a studio audience, and you could really feel that the audience's energy too.
Yeah. No, like again, like I would have to I do want to rewatch the entire thing and season 9, 10, 11, 12 as well. But it feels like I know there's gonna be a season 13. They've confirmed they are yet again coming back after so this was 2017 and Promised Land is 2020. I still haven't seen that, by the way. I'm still saving that. But
Yeah, but
now,
it seems like the news keeps going back and forth. Like,
yeah.
they were originally going to film it last October, and then
hmm
it got moved to the summer, and then Craig Charles said that, they're not sure if they're going to get the funding, and then I think recently, I saw a news post, but I'm not sure if it was just a rehash of an old post, but
hmm
I saw another news post that made it seem like it was back on.
Like unfortunately I believe it's back on, and I don't know, like especially when this feels like such a nice way to finish it, like with like some dignity, because it's a perfect finale. As you know, Arnold has it all, but he cannot just comprehend, or doesn't want to, make peace with the fact that Lister is still better than him. So he has a wife. He's got his four sons. He's not a hologram. He's alive. They're Earth.
And
They are next to Earth.
he's a ranking officer.
Exactly. He's navigational. Finally, he's got a navigational officer. So all his dreams have been achieved. He has nobody to blame for his, like a family, dad, his upbringing, all that stuff. And yet, just because Lister is his boss, he's like,
Well, not
nope, I cannot
just
do it.
yeah, not just that Lister is his boss, but that Lister is more successful than
Mm,
him in every metric. Like he's
yes.
higher ranked, he's rich, he's
He's dating the stripper from Venus, or married to the
from
stripper.
multiverse.
Yeah, from Multan, yeah. And it's just like it feels kind of like yes, and like when he returns and realizes, okay, these might not be the best dudes, but these are my dudes, and I have some sort of authority over them, or I can claim I can have authority, and they kind of go along with it. So it kind of felt like a nice, ending, and that's why I'm kind of savoring the Promised Land. Like I still haven't seen it. It's been waiting there for me to be watched. I don't know what's the quality of that. I don't know. But now season 13, I'll watch it, and yeah, I'll watch season 13 because Red Dwarf is Red Dwarf. You know, it's weird to see them getting old.
Yeah, and one other thing that I wanted to bring up, before we get too deep into
Mhm.
the episode proper is that I did find there's a fan site, Ganymede in Titan. It's a Red Dwarf fan site, and every 5 years they do uh, do a big poll of all of their readers, and they rank all the episodes of Red Dwarf.
Mhm.
And I think it's interesting considering the ones that I've covered. I've really kind of hit the range because the absolute bottom is Pete's part one and two, and that's I covered that for series 8, and then the number one by a long shots that that in every I think every single poll is Back to Reality,
Ah,
and and Skipper and the Promised Land are the two top rated Dave era,
okay, that's
with
good.
Skipper I think just above the Promised Land in the most
hmm
recent one, which was 2023 for the 35th anniversary. And I can see that, I really enjoy this episode. I think like we said, it's a good capper to the series as a whole with all the different callbacks, and I think even the format itself feels like a classic Red Dwarf episode where we have the first part of the episode, which is it's related, but it's almost a completely different episode with the whole like opposite day basically is
Yes.
kind of how I think of it. They're they I guess at the very beginning we do get this moment of just just the talking in the bunk, and they Lister comes in with the captain's report of their of his thoughts about Lister and Rimmer, and I think that they're not unexpected, where he refers to Lister as bright but lazy,
Yes.
and Lister that the eternal optimist, he focuses on the bright part and ignores all the rest.
Yeah, like he not just lazy, but it's like, he does this wrong, this, like a long list of his not nice qualities, and he's just like, oh, I'm right, that's nice, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's such a Lister thing to say. It's just like to focus on that one bit. It's so good, and then just the Rimmer, like with his report, like, he's from a decorated family of officers, yada yada yada. Despite this, like he never achieved blah blah blah. And he always blah blah blah, and just like skims
Blames
through his one.
everybody else, blah blah
Yeah,
blah, and then
yeah.
the capper joke of that is like, but I never blame anyone else, and if I do, it's because of my mother, because she was a blamer.
Yes. The setup is there. Like it feels like more Red Dwarf. Like all of them are there. It's not just those two. So it does feel like very dwarf-y.
Yeah, and then we get this the long range scan, and again I love the whole joke setup of Rimmer thinking that Crichton is just seeing the picture that Rimmer or that Lister had put on on top of the scanner of his face, and with the piece of food giving him a Hitler mustache.
Yeah, is it just my passport photo again? I just told you. I don't photograph well from what was it, from this
from
angle,
from
which
the
is like
front.
front angle or something. Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah.
And then we get the whole setup for this reality breaking, this hole in the multiverse, basically. And this was 2017, so this is let's see, where does that put that in terms of? I'm trying to think of where that fits in the MCU. It's
Well, that's before, actually. And that's before because now it seems like everything or all we get is like multiverse, not just MCU, but like everything, every Odd Ones, Flash, and like so like Red Dwarf was a few years ahead of everybody else in that department. Whereas like, oh yeah, multiverse, like like every action happens differently in this universe, this universe, this universe. So like they are ahead of pretty much everybody.
yeah, I think let's see, Spider-Man No Way Home, was that 2019? I am
21?
horrible for 21.
Yeah, those post-pandemic.
Yeah, so that's I kind of well, I guess maybe was it the Across the or Into the Spider-Verse, that was a couple, was that one
That
then?
was 2018.
Yeah. So I think that one was really the first big movie that
Hmm.
heavily featured the multiverse, and even that was a year after this.
Yes. And again, obviously, we need to, think about like this was way slightly earlier than this. So this might have been shot 2016-ish, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
so no, like they were ahead at least a year. Like I know Flash has been like developing the movie we've gotten. It's been in development hell for like a decade. So
Well,
that's why
and
it
and
felt old.
the TV series was definitely, practically every season was a different, I only
Yeah.
watched like the first two or three seasons of it, but I know like the the doctor, like kind of the mentor doctor character. I believe he was a completely different character in every season. Like he was from a different
Mm-hmm.
multiverse in every season.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, spoiler, that in the first season he ended up being Reverse Flash.
Okay. I've never seen a Flash TV show, so yeah.
Yeah, and of course comics, multiverse goes way
Yes.
back, but yeah, I do think that in terms of like it really hitting the popular culture was probably Into the Spider-Verse and then
Yes.
going into the MCU where this is like we're kind of at the tail, or we're like right in the middle of the multiverse phase.
Hmm. Yes. Hmm.
But I like this whole opposite day and especially in terms of the cat. And I loved all the scenes with Lister and the cat where
Yep.
he's, why don't you make me some coffee? And then the cat is like, I am not making you coffee. And then the coffee appears. Here's your coffee.
Oh yeah, why don't you shine my boots before we go? No, I'm not gonna shine. Oh no, I'm not gonna not shine your boots. And just like you didn't count your ain'ts and nots. And then, like the scene, like obviously the like and it, evolves or not evolves. That then just finishes with the elevator and stairs scene. No,
Hmm.
we're gonna take the elevator. Oh no, oh you need to think about taking the stairs, and then we take the elevator. Oh okay, I'm not that dumb. And now we take the oh, and it just like back and forth.
Yeah. That it's one of those great like the gag goes on, I think, just the right amount of time
Yeah.
because it's one of those drawn out where they keep showing up, keep going back and forth between being on the stairs to being in front of the lift, and
Hmm.
then they finally make it to the science room, and then he screws it up yet again right at the very end.
Oh yeah, how he's like, yeah, we should definitely not talk about this and not stay here, all of us. What are you guys talking about? And then just disappear.
Yeah, and then we get um the explanation about the quantum skipper device that Crichton
Hmm.
made, which this turns out to be all of Crichton's fault. And the only slight thing is I feel like they the opposite day gags has kind of stopped at that point for that explanation.
Hmm.
Although I think for the most part, they don't really have any decision lines in that conversation, except whenever Crichton says that, he's going to go make the repairs to the quantum device, which will take a few hours. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the one, slight little flaw
Hmm.
where I almost think that, maybe he should have repaired it already so that way they were kind of out of the opposite day at
Hmm.
during this discussion because all of that um wrong decision is kind of over at that point in the episode because we don't really get any more
Yeah.
uh
Yeah. Because yeah, like that story or this episode is not really like this was just a setup to get to the
mm,
meat and bones of this episode, which obviously then it's Rimmer looking for the universe where he's not a loser, and there must be at least one. So like
yeah
it's gonna take a while, but he'll find it. And
and
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and the other kind of big mistake that, I didn't really think about while I
Hmm.
was watching the episode either time, but I see it written about a lot, is that there's no mention, like there's no reference at all to Ace Rimmer.
Yep.
But I can kind of understand why, because I feel like if he managed to go into if he managed to hit an Ace Rimmer universe, then that could be one where he would want to stay. And so
Yes.
that would kind of ruin the entire concept of the episode. And I think it works because they say that they do have the line setting up where he's going to similar universes, where I feel like the Ace Rimmer universe is like almost completely opposite of everything, where
Hmm.
every character is kind of the opposite of what they were in our Red Dwarf universe.
Yep. And like the universe where there's all just listers. And then there's instead of a cat, like then second, because the first one is the Red Dwarf where he has the big age for hologram. So like a callback to the first like seasons. All the crew is there. Obviously, that's where we see Holly and Captain, Hollister and all that. And second one is the one where Lister is like this fancy dude with like a
Mhm.
collection of cables. And but
Yeah,
but they have a rat.
collection of vintage cables
Yes,
and
vintage cables. Yeah.
yeah, and I love that too because that's not very far removed from a Rimmer that he's mentioned in previous series that he enjoys like telegraph poles. Like he has
Yep.
catalogs of or pictures of telegraph poles. So
Hmm.
that kind of fits right along there as something that classic Rimmer would be interested in.
Correct. So the only flaw with that universe was instead of a cat, they have a rat.
Yeah,
Do you want
that
extra cheese on your cheese, sir?
yeah, and Mr. Rat is really, the second biggest gag in this
Hmm.
episode. And I feel like this, and again, reading up on it, that this is one that I think a lot of fans kind of resonate just with the absolute absurdity
Hmm.
of Mr. Rat and Danny John Jules in this costume where he can't see anything, but it's because as Cat it's just Danny John Jules with teeth, with
Yes.
like vampire teeth.
Yeah.
But for Mr. Rat, he's like in this full rat costume with this giant rat head, and just the physicality of his performance is hilarious, even though the mouth doesn't move at all.
Hmm.
But still, just the voice that he uses for that, it's very, Mr. Rat is the one in charge of this universe. And
Hmm.
just all the gags, and he says, the all the cats had a holy war and left the ship, and the Mr. Rat's like, or they say, well, the rats didn't leave the ship. In fact, they took over all of Deck G and Deck B and Deck C,
All the decks. Yep. No,
and
it was just
sometimes he and sometimes he curls up and sleeps with Lister at night. He's so warm and cuddly, cuz
yes.
so warm and cuddly.
No, it was just like, yeah, and a universe, like I also like how there are certain universes where we only see flashes. It was like, and he's like, nope,
Mhm.
and that's also like one, I guess, a flaw, quote unquote. The very first universe, like the device needs time to recharge, but
Mhm.
then he transports to another one, and then like he's like, oh nope, and he transfers immediately to another one and another one. So I'm like, oh, so it's no longer needing, the charging. Okay, cool. But it's again, that's like a beauty of Red Dwarf. They stumble upon an issue, and somebody, like most of the time, Crichton, just figures out, oh yeah, there's a solution. Ah, here's the magic box. You press the button and it does whatever we needed to do. And it's just like, any problem they stumble upon, it's not a problem. It's just a way to advance the plot exactly where they need it. And it's like, don't worry about the details. It's fine. There's a box with a button, and they press it, and the button does exactly what they need to do at that moment.
Yeah. And I also like the little gag in there. You already talked about the one with multiple
Lister.
listers,
Hmm.
which that was fun, and that was, giving Craig Charles an opportunity because, throughout the entire series, there's been many different episodes where we see multiple Rimmers.
Hmm.
But I believe this is the first time that we see several different versions of Lister by
Yeah.
himself. Because I think the only other ones is, we got like Demons and Angels where all the crew has their high and
Hmm.
low versions.
And there's
Eh,
Echoes of Future where they see each other, where Lister delivers the twins because they go
mhm.
into the parallel universe where men can get pregnant. So he has one night stand with female Lister, and then he gets pregnant and delivers the twins. So
Yeah,
like we see it everybody twice. Like there's a scene where they see each other briefly.
but
Yes.
Rimmer, he's had, Rimmer World
Yes,
where he
correct.
has had an entire world of Rimmers, and he also had Officer Rimmer where
And
the
Ace.
the yeah. Well, I mean, Ace is just like a single one, but Rimmer World and Officer Rimmer is both episodes where there's tons of different Rimmers,
Hmm. Yep.
and so this is Craig Charles's opportunity to have you know play a bunch of different parts, even if it's just one brief scene. And
Hmm.
then I also liked the one where Rimmer comes back as Holly, as the computer.
Oh yeah. What is it? What's happening? Why can I not move? And just like then we see like he's in a monitor, and I was like, so how is he gonna press the button? I like, oh yeah, the control is right next to him, so he just like noses it out, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and then we get to the last one,
Hmm.
which yeah, we talked about a little bit, but yeah, we get Lister, and it is like the perfect universe, except for that one slight thing where uh, Lister, they still had the faulty drive plate, but Lister was the one that found it and repaired it correctly,
Yep.
which something that I've been saying a lot throughout this season of the podcast, that where Lister is someone who is he's very smart and very capable, exactly like the captain's report. He's
Hmm.
very bright, but he just doesn't imply himself. And so
Yes.
Lister is uh, all ability but no ambition, where Rimmer is all ambition but no ability.
Yeah, the polar opposites. Yeah, it's like, and that's why they work. That's why this is like your stereotypical comedic duo. Like, what one lacks, the other has, and then vice versa. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, and so in this universe, they never went into deep space for 3 million years, so they're still like right outside of Earth. But
Hmm.
because he, correctly repaired the drive plate and it saved the crew uh, from instant death, that he got promoted, and then he ended up, uh, turning down a cash payout in return for shares of, I guess, JMC. And
Hmm.
then JMC ended up finding a uh, a
Helium-7, I think
cash,
they mentioned.
yeah, helium-7.
Hmm.
And so it became like a top tier company and made Lister rich.
Rich
And
man.
yeah, and so he doesn't just have the power of being a captain, but he also has money. And
Hmm.
but he's still Lister because he
Yes.
and they have some great gags, like he uses the stasis chamber to keep snacks fresh and ready because they're frozen in time at peak freshness. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like a time stasis refrigerator.
Yeah, it's like, like he offers him a beer. Then I was like, oh, a beer at this hour, Lister? No, okay, a shot. And then he offers him like a cigar and a burger. And just like the burger patty. I'm like, all right, Lister. Yep.
Yeah, and I also like that the slight gag where Lister says that he's married to Chrissy, and Rimmer
Yeah.
says Kachansky, and no, Crystal.
From Venus, yes. It's just, yeah, like again, like it does feel like fundamental, not like the good old-fashioned Red Dwarf episode. It does feel
Mhm.
like, they get into some shenanigans in it very early on, and they are kind of forgotten about, and then they focus on the real story of the episode, and everybody is involved. Obviously, the second half is mostly Lister and Rimmer, because, Rimmer's,
Mhm.
really mostly Rimmer. But then, like, like Lister and takes also the forefront, and I think just to have it those two, and Rimmer making the decision that no, he cannot stay here, and then ending on all four of them. It was again, it feels like not just a season finale. It does feel like a serious finale,
Mhm.
and rewatching it now, I was like, yeah, I don't really know whether I want season 13. Like, as much as I love this show, and as much as it's still to this day my number one favorite show, because just by sheer amount of time I've seen it.
Mhm.
I don't know if I want to have any more after this. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm someone that, in general, I am someone that I don't mind reboots, I don't mind remakes, I don't mind legacy sequels.
Hmm.
I find nothing wrong with it. And, if any of those are bad, I don't feel like they detract from the original. So,
Yeah.
because in my opinion, if it's bad, you just ignore it.
Hmm.
Like so many people for the longest time, it's like, no, there's only three Indiana Jones movies.
Mm. I kind of like the fourth one. Not to go on a tangent, but like I kind of like the fourth one. The fifth one though is just not bad, but it's just so painfully average. It was just average. It's not bad. It's just average. It's not Indiana Jones anymore.
Yeah,
But
although that's surprising because in general, what I've heard, which I haven't seen the fifth one myself, I keep meaning to, but
mhm.
most of the people that I've heard that's seen the fifth one said that it's, a big step up from the fourth, and some people
Really,
like, more than one person had thought that it was kind of a return to form.
really,
Yeah.
okay. The most people I hang out with, they had this similar reaction to me, and they were saying, and I honestly I made the prediction when it came out, so now it's gonna be 2 years ago, and I'll say that same thing to you. I think in about 10 years' time, because of this Indiana Jones, fifth Indiana Jones, more people will appreciate the fourth one. Because the fourth one, for all its flaws, still feels like Indiana Jones adventure. This feels more generic adventure with Indiana Jones. Sorry to detract from this episode of Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I feel like that sentiment's happened with Star Wars as well, with the prequels. I feel like as time goes by, people who grew up with the prequels and those were their first introduction to Star Wars, that now that they've become adults, there's a lot more nostalgia for the prequels, more so for the original trilogy.
Don't even get me started on there, like genuinely, because I think the problem, not the problem. I think with the prequels, yes, obviously people who grew up like myself, who grew up on prequels, appreciate them mid more, but the sequels had no plan, and it shows. So like again, you can say all you want about prequels, but at least there's a beginning, middle, and end. If you put on a sequels, there are three disjointed movies who trying to undo each other as they go, and it just is a mess.
Yeah, I still haven't seen 8 or 9.
Eight is
But
great.
yeah, I've heard like kind of, I mean, Last Jedi, there's so many mixed thoughts on that, but I get the impression that they had a plan,
Hmm.
but then they faced a lot of backlash, and so they tried to course correct, and
Yes.
it's and that's why it ended up as such a jumbled mess because they kept kind of trying to course correct after each movie based on the fan reactions and ended up with what we got.
I think this year is eighth year since The Last Jedi came out because it was 2017. So I think we are far enough removed. If you were to watch it, not expecting anything, because I think that was the biggest problem with that movie. People have expected this to come true, this. They had all fan theories, how who's Rey, who is Snoke, this person, and then that movie undermines pretty much everything and does its own thing, which Star Wars fans were screaming for, but they didn't like it because no, how dare you do what I had planned, what I've prepared myself for myself
Yeah,
for. How
even though
dare
you
you
gave me
try
what I
new?
want, you
Yeah,
didn't give it to me in the way that I wanted, so I'm gonna be
yeah. The main
mad.
critique of season of episode 7. This is a new hope all over again. Nothing new. Give me something new. Okay, Ryan Johnson comes with episode 8, does something original. Oh, this is total bullcrap. This is not what I wanted. This is not my Star Wars. Get back, JJ. Oh. No, eight is actually genuinely great. Unfortunately, the ninth episode undermines everything, and it's just a jumble mess. So, but no, eight. You should watch eight at least. Ninth.
Yeah. And then again, like the second to last scene in it going back to Skipper is kind of, another moment of going back to the beginning where they go into a, pretty close recreation of the original bunk set from
Oh
the
yeah, that was
first
nice.
couple seasons. Even like looking at it now, I even see they have the giant banana there,
Hmm.
which was introduced in series 2.
Hmm. No, that
And
was a nice, like, that's when they see the Earth from the window, and you can see,
mhm.
oh, they are actually not in a deep space. Earth is right there. So, like, obviously, it makes sense. And it was such a nice touch. Like, just the two of them in that bunk. It did feel nostalgic, and it felt nice to see that again.
Yeah, and then the episode ends with, Lister. uh I don't know why I've been doing this. I've been watching Red Dwarf for so long and I've been talking about it, for
Mhm.
the past few months over the seasons. I don't know why I keep all of a sudden here on episode 12 or I guess 24
Mhm.
in the season that I keep getting Lister and Rimmer mixed up today.
It's fine. It just happens. Yeah.
But Rimmer comes back and the other three are just playing cards and it's just them passing the time. Lister has a couple beers and says, just okay, we'll deal you in. And of course, Rimmer gets one last moment of being Rimmer where he moves Crichton out of the way so he can take Crichton's seat.
Hmm.
Which
And that's the end.
yeah, and that's the end. It's just them, playing cards, passing time for eternity, which is I in terms of since this is it's not quite the last episode. I still haven't decided if I'm going to come back around and cover the Promised Land or not.
Hmm.
I know it's a little bit harder to find. It's not streaming free anywhere in the US right now.
Mm.
But in terms of ending, like how do you think of this? Like, is this a satisfying ending with them just, that it's just them doing this for the rest of eternity? Like, Lister never finds his way back to Earth, or do you feel like Red Dwarf should have a kind of happy ending where Lister either makes it back to Earth in this universe, or if he goes to a different universe as Earth. Like, how do you think that Red Dwarf should end?
I think for Red Dwarf, it would be kind of almost cheating if they actually used like, oh, Lister goes back in a different universe and he's happy there. I feel like that would be almost like undoing everything they kind of stood for, because it
Yeah.
is at the end of the day, it's about these dudes trapped in the middle of nowhere, 3 million years from space, oh, from Earth, sorry. And yeah, they are just killing time. They are just getting themselves into adventure after adventure after adventure. Some of them are silly, some of them are more serious. I think this was as I cannot really imagine a better ending. Well, I don't know, like I wouldn't like I don't think I would do knowing season 13 is coming. I hope they wouldn't try to finish it like, oh, somehow there's a magical device that, actually moves us 3 million years forward to the Earth, and they'll find Earth and, Lister reaches home. Even though, would it still be there? I don't know. But I feel like it just, needs to finish on Red Dwarf. Like, I cannot imagine any other proper finish. That's why I would be more than happy if we just let it be right now and not have any season 13. I genuinely think this is as good as finale as it can be, where Rimmer, despite having it all, cannot stand the thought that the Rimmer. Sorry, I did your thing. That Lister is still more successful and his boss. So like he still outranks him a tiny bit. So like that kind, just that's the kind of, yeah, I cannot do it. I cannot really do it. I have everything I wanted for my entire life for this existence of the show, and yet he has slightly more of what he perceives is slightly more than him. So he just goes back to what he knows, the devil you know.
Mhm. Yeah, and I also think, they did even kind of touch on it in this episode because
Mhm.
whenever they're figuring out who's going to use the quantum skipper,
Oh yeah,
uh,
they're
Lister is
happy.
the one with the first option, and he says, "Well, I'm the last human in existence. I have an obligation to this universe to
Yes.
remain here."
Yeah, and Crichton's, serves Lister. He's keeping him alive. That's a good scene where they're like, oh, that cable is live. You should probably chew on that, sir. Oh, thank you, Crichton. And Cat is just there for a vibes. Cat is just chilling there, like Cat, you know, Cat will never go anywhere. So like it's always a Rimmer who wants to, it's like as you said, he's all ambition but not enough, no skill. So like he always wants to be something higher, officer, navigational officer, has a wife and all that. So it would make sense for him to be the only one who's like, yeah, you know what? Let me look for a universe where I'm not a loser.
Yeah, I think that this really is like a nice capper to the series with them
Hmm.
just continuing to bum off, to bum around the universe for the rest of
Hmm.
eternity, finding derelicts from the past and finding Gelfs and simulants and other
Yep.
cyborgs and androids and all of that. It's it just keeps going on and
Hmm.
without ending. I don't think that as much as I would have kind of liked to have seen Kachansky make an appearance, that I don't think that that is the right way to end the series. I don't think.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be mad if they ended up doing that in some form or fashion. I don't think I believe Chloe Annette is mostly retired from acting at this point. So I'm not sure
Hmm.
if they would bring her back um or even recast it again.
Yeah,
But
I was gonna say they've already recasted her once a long time ago, so might as well. No, but I think you're right. I think like it's weird. She was effectively the only quote unquote regular because she was a regular on season 7 and 8.
mhm.
So like she was one of only the one big player that was missing from this entire episode. And yet, if we're gonna have season 13, I don't know, do we need her? Like Lister obviously still would be more than happy to have her and to wife her. Fair. But I don't know if Red Dwarf is that show where it's like we're gonna end with a wedding. You know what I mean? It kind of would feel like, really? Okay. Interesting choice.
Yeah, and it's what they say with a lot of a series, things go downhill when
Hmm.
you have the will they won't they couple
Hmm.
whenever they finally get together. That's that tends to be the death knell of a series.
Yep. Like not everything needs we don't need all stories to have some sort of will they one day or if they're a man and a woman and they are reasonably attractive, we don't need to form them, like them form a couple. Like they can just be friends. Obviously, in this example, they have been coupled in the past, so like it would make more of a sense, just like from a general story perspective.
Yeah, and even like if for I guess like around in Back to Earth, and I think there's even references in I don't remember, but I think there's references in some of the later um like the next Dave series, but not here as much. But that for a while there, Lister was on kind of a quest to regain to find Kachansky because they do kind of share that same parallel history because
Hmm.
Dave is the last human in existence in this universe, and then Kachansky was or at least that Kachansky was the last human in existence in her universe.
Yep. Yep. No, yeah, like they share again, like yeah, they share if they got her back, like the actual actress back, like that could potentially that could be the only better thing they could do if they wanted to up this finale. Like I'm not talking just a season 13, I'm talking what the last episode of season 13 will be. Because again, they need to write every season as the last season ever, right? Because
Mhm.
again, nobody's getting any younger. And we're all very lucky and happy. All the main players are still alive. But it's not gonna be the case for ever, as much as it hurts me. As much as it hurts me, like all of us will eventually die. So like there needs to be some proper send off and proper end where it's like once and done. Like it's that's finished. It lets we can celebrate everything we've achieved with this show. We can celebrate all the episodes that have been released, and it's all good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed, this entire season, which,
Mhm.
this may or may not be my last episode where I'm talking about Red Dwarf. It's been a fun revisit, even with Pete, which is kind of the bottom rank of the Red Dwarf. That there's still things to enjoy in that
Yeah.
episode, and it's been a lot of fun revisiting this series again and talking about it and talking with other people who love the show as much as I do. And for people who might not be aware of you and the work that you do, why don't you take a moment and let people know about your podcasts and where you can be found online?
Of course, thank you for having me. I had a blast. Sorry for my Star Wars rant and an Indiana Jones rant. Uh, People, I'm quite simple. Lostinmovies.co.uk is my blog. I try to write. I've been slacking lately, but I'll come back to it, I promise. In Movies Lost on Letterboxd, which I love movies, so you will see me rating and logging a lot of movies. So like, don't panic. It's just me on a normal day. And my podcast is Flicks and Chill, when that can be found anywhere podcasts are found. On which, in one episode you've been a guest on, so I appreciate you, and it was also a fun episode. So thank you for that.
Yeah. It was definitely a fun conversation, and of course, you can find this show anywhere on all available podcatchers. We also have a Facebook group. It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss episodes as they come out. And we also welcome discussions about time loops and movies and TV episodes of all kind, and anything time loop related is all welcome there. And on social media, I am everywhere at Bubbawheat these days. I am most active on Threads. So that's kind of the best place to find me and see what I'm doing. But if you are on another service and you find me, if you send me an at, I will still see it and respond to it, even though I'm not as active on the other platforms like Blue Sky and Twitter and Instagram. But until next time, smoke me a kipper and I'll regenerate before breakfast next week.